We've talked about this a little bit, but maybe you can do a quick riff. Yanni asked, how do you control harshness in a mix? You and I have talked about saturation, we've talked about occasional multiband compression, talked about tubes. You got any just like quick, somebody's at a home studio, they don't have a ton of gear. Is there any sort of like a couple of thoughts?
Yeah, I can talk about, I know people love hearing specific tools. So this is an easy one to discuss a specific tool that I like to use, which I don't like to discuss, but we'll do it for this purpose. I really love the Ozone 9 Spectral Shaper for controlling harshness as a handicap plugin that's just on the mix bus. So taking, depending on where we're at, 2.5K up to 4.5K, let's say, for example, maybe 2 to 5, maybe 2 to 8, like it changes on every mix, and just warming that up. There's a character knob or slider there that just kind of, sets the character you're looking for, and then a threshold. It's really simple, and it's a good way to kind of warm that up without reducing it too much, without getting rid of it. I'm really subtractive, so I'll EQ upper mids a lot. That's based on the Fletcher-Munson curve, that we hear that region of frequencies louder by 3 or so dB naturally, biologically. So there's headroom to reduce in that range. And instead of just cutting out in all sounds different ways, I kind of handicap myself and put that on there to control that. But there's other ways, reducing EQ, subtractive EQ, even order harmonic saturation, exciters in a warm mode. There's a lot.
Is that Ozone feature a saturation?
No.
What is it doing? Is it compressing?
Multi-band dynamics. To me, it sounds like magic. It's like thousands of micro reductions happening at the same time, dependent and frequency dependent, and it's a bit magical, but it's multi-band dynamics in phase, very fine adjustments, almost what like Spotify is doing in their algorithm to save space on files. These small band reductions dynamically, and they're shifting at all different times.
So conceptually, let's do our usual sort of philosophical thing. If you're trying to reduce harshness, the simplest way to do it is reduce the frequency range with an EQ, but then of course you're losing all of the other parts of that frequency range that are not
all
harsh.
The time.
So
all the time.
Finding
EQ is taking it out.
Finding various strategies to either saturate a little bit and spread out the harmonics over different frequency ranges, or using a multiband compressor or dynamics controller like the Ozone thing, which is a more complicated version of a regular multiband compressor. What that'll do is just take out the little harsh moments or smooth it out overall. So things like Soothe, some of these, they all can do different versions of that.
It's complicated in the background, like any AI or any algorithm that's doing what makes our life easier when we're trying to get something off the internet with free shipping. Like, we're not thinking about that. It's doing all the work for us, and it's 2 sliders that say, how much do you want to reduce? And of what character do you want this to sound like after it's reduced? Right. One thing very simple.
Yeah. One thing I would say about when we give specific ideas or specific notes, try it a couple of different ways and listen and see what works.
And bypass constantly. Similar to Soothe in a sharp mode. Yes, it is. Yeah. Soothe is very heavy-handed. Soothe 2 is way more figured out by the company than Soothe 1. It's not, I don't reach for it often. It sounds a bit heavy-handed. I'm talking about a bit more of a subtle thing that you have more control over. Soothe is wild. You can fuck up sounds. You can get rid of punchiness and transience with Soothe really easily. So, Soothe doesn't seem to be the best one for things that you want to remain transient and punchy. It seems to soften things a bit too broadly.